From United Nations headquarters in New York, this is World Chronicle. World Chronicle, a spontaneous, unrehearsed, unedited interview with the session of the United Nations, is the President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Ziaur Rahman.
I hope that the food aid by other countries will not be affected as a result of this. This is the time where we need support because we are trying to pick up and stand on our feet. And this is the time that our friendly countries got to come forward and give us a helping hand.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of World Chronicle. And here at United Nations headquarters in New York today to interview our guest are three news correspondents. Brennan Jones, correspondent for Interpress Service, the Third World News Agency. Peggy Wilkins of the international staff of the Wall Street Journal. And Prem Shankar Yar, editor, Financial Express, New Delhi. Our guest today, Ziaur Rahman, the President of Bangladesh, was born in 1936. He became a professional soldier at the age of 17 by some 11 million votes. President Ziaur, we're delighted to have you on this edition of World Chronicle. And here with our first question for you is Mr. Yar of the Financial Express in New Delhi.
Mr. President, the question I have to ask you today concerns your statement this morning to the General Assembly, where, if you'll pardon me using the phrase, you dropped a small bombshell as far as the Group of 77 were concerned. In fact, someone listening to you said that it's rather like the chap who told the king that he had no clothes on. I'm referring, of course, to your suggestion that the OPEC countries should cut the price of oil to the developing countries by 50%. Now, from what I've been seeing, a number of people have this very much on their minds, but the Group of 77 were rather hoping, to keep this within the ECDC, the Economic Cooperation for Developing Countries, and not to air it here. Now, what were your reasons for doing this, and how have you been received?
Well, that's for you to judge how I have been received as far as this is concerned. But countries like ours, the least developed countries, are really badly affected as a result of the general inflation all over the world and the rise in oil price. On the one hand, we are paying far too much price for oil, and on the other hand, we are having to get from the developed countries finished products at higher and higher price. So on the one hand, we are having to pay a much higher bill for oil, and on the other hand, we are having to pay much higher bill for imported products. This has put us off very badly. So we have to find out ways and means by which we can balance up this maladjustment. And it is with this objective that I suggested that the OPEC countries should think of supplying oil at that price level to the least developed countries.
Well, the point is, I think they had rather hoped, if I'm not mistaken, that they would avoid the separation or the isolation of the oil issue or the oil price issue from the other issues of how to recycle the international liquidity, changes in the representation of various countries on the board of governors of IMF and World Bank, and other issues which are structural in nature. Now, your statement seems to have gone against this trend inside the Group of 77. Would you agree with me on that?
I don't think so. These are all interconnected. The price of oil has direct bearing on all other issues related to economy, and especially to the developing and least developed countries. So I think this is right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. I'd like to ask you about the commodity agreements. Does Bangladesh stand to gain from those? And what do you think of the prospects for coming to some commodity agreements out of the UN session?
Would you just clearly say what you would like to know?
Okay, the agreements that would stabilize prices of commodities, and I assume that you would benefit through jute, for your jute and for your tea, perhaps other commodities. Can you comment on what the United Nations is about to do in terms of stabilizing commodity prices and how Bangladesh could benefit?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is again very important for us, this commodity price agreement, because we find that for our raw products, countries like us are mainly exporting raw material. And for this, unfortunately, we are getting lesser price or not attractive price. So this has decreased our exports in real value. So if an agreement like this is reached through negotiations and understanding, it is going to help countries like ours reasonably well and keep our export balanced, and we can see beforehand and know how much we can earn from our exports. This will help us in planning our production in the country and our export over a period of substantial time.
And specifically, your exports that would benefit would be jute, tea?
Yes, jute, tea, leather.
Leather, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think the prospects are for an agreement that will benefit the countries?
Well, As I said this morning, it's not an easy thing. But we got to keep moving with the negotiations and find out new formulas which could be acceptable to all the parties, and especially formulas which will, in real term, benefit countries like ours. Yeah, I would like to say one thing, and that is that some of the countries like ours have a lot of untapped resources, unexplored resources, unutilized resources, natural resources. For our country, we can say, such as the gas, natural gas, good prospect for oil, limestone, coal, which have remained unexplored or fully developed. So, this way, we would be able to foresee our exports and plan our economy.
Mr. President, I'd like to get back to the question about the bombshell that you dropped this morning. The talk in the corridors of the UN and amongst many delegates is that we might see a split here in the group of 77. Are you thinking of trying to take leadership in forming a least developed country bloc to try and move away, a coalition of some sort to deal specifically with your set of problems? And the other question I'd like to ask is, it was hinted by U.S. Ambassador McHenry what the content of your speech would be and that we should watch it closely. Were you consulting with the U.S. government on this, and was there any kind of deal that was struck?
The answer to your first question is that there's nothing like that. This is a thing which have been, I understand, mentioned by others earlier. And we felt that it is better to say it here, and I don't think this has any prospect of splitting the group of 77. And let me tell you, we had no talks with anybody on this count. If anybody said it, must have said on their own.
But then how did Ambassador McHenry say with great confidence? He said, I don't want to steal the thunder of President Zia, who will be talking to you a little later, but you should listen to the speech being given by the President of Bangladesh and what he has to say about the energy question and the price of oil. I'm just quoting him.
Well, I think you should ask him to answer this question.
He must have good intelligence.
I'd like to refer to a very interesting magazine article recently, sir, which described you as being the super salesman from Dhaka, taking the message around the world that Bangladesh has a stable government and is emerging as an attractive trading partner for both East and West. Did you see that? And if you didn't, how would you react to that?
Well, I don't know, but during the last 1 or 2 years, I have undertaken trips to really many countries, both in the East and the West. The object, one should have understood that we were colonized for a long period, as a result of which we remain undeveloped, whereas we have tremendous resources. Firstly, the land is so fertile, and in agriculture, our return is so low. As I said a few minutes ago, we have several others, very valuable natural resources which have remained undeveloped, unexplored. For this, we got to talk to people who have the money, who have the technical know-how. And apart from this, being a new country, I had decided to visit as many countries as possible. And I think these visits have really helped us a lot to project Bangladesh in other countries and discuss with those countries' leaders as to how economic cooperation could be built up. And as a result of these visits, our assistance from abroad has increased over the last 2-3 years, and the economy in our country are gradually picking up.
Is the oil deposits that you have indications of, are they anywhere near this line of demarcation of the continental shelf with India? Because there are some people, perhaps not well-wishers of either India or Bangladesh, who would like to see a kind of dispute coming up on this.
I find your questions are one track, however. You see, we are looking for oil on the land. And we have brought now our own rigs, and in a few months' time we would be drilling for oil on the land.
Mr. President, I'm afraid that's all the time we have today, which is a great pity. The clock always beats us. President Zia, we have to close the show, but we want to thank you for being with us today to answer our questions on this edition of World Chronicle. Our guest has been Zia Rahman, the President of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. President Rahman, here to attend a special session of the United Nations General Assembly, was interviewed here at UN headquarters in New York by Brennan Jones, correspondent for Interpress Service, the Third World News Agency, Peggy Wilkins of the International Staff at the Wall Street Journal, and Prem Shankar Yar, editor of the Financial Express of New Delhi. And I'm Brian Saxton, thanking you for being with us and hoping you'll join us again for the next edition of World Chronicle.
Transcripts of these interviews may be obtained without cost by sending a stamped, self-addressed envelope to World Chronicle, United Nations, New York, New York 10017. World Chronicle is broadcast in developing and developed nations worldwide and features senior officials whose work is concerned with the developing nations of the world, in spontaneous, unrehearsed, unedited interviews conducted by reporters from press, radio, and television. World Chronicle is a public affairs presentation of this station. It is produced by United Nations Radio and Television in cooperation with the UN's Division for Economic and Social Information. This is Tina Jorgensen speaking.